All right, welcome guys to today's series. Today is gonna be a wonderful day. All right, it's already a great day. So we're gonna continue with our Windows Server series. And today we are going to be working on a project. I call it a project. So it's just a little scenario that I just created. So basically, we are going to be building a server infrastructure. I'm going to walk us through each step and what we need to do basically. And if you're ready, I am ready. All right, let's go. I'm gonna pull up the document we're gonna be working with today. So this is what we're gonna be working on today. It's a simple infrastructure. So basically, we're going to be setting up to Windows Server 2016, um, standard version with desktop experience, and we're going to be configuring each server with well, based on the requirements that is listed on this document. We're gonna walk through. I want to walk you through the document really quick. We're going to look at what the requirements are and we're going to figure out what we need to do next. All right. So, if we look through the document from the top, I'm just going to read through and try to summarize what we need to do. Said you have been hired by Atlas Corporation as a server administrator. The business is currently expanding and they're going to open a new branch office in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Now, you have been assigned the role of the chief server admin. Oh, that's a great role. You are responsible for setting up the server or setting up the server infrastructure. The following are some of the business requirements for the new site. You would need to build your server and solution to meet the business requirement. Now, so the new site is going to have the following. Yeah, they're going to be 10 employees. We're going to have two IT administrative staff. We're going to have two printers. We're going to have 15 computer systems. We're going to have two departments. No, sorry, we're going to have five departments rather: HR, payroll, IT, accounting, and government. We're going to have one office space for government contractors. Now, they said the IT manager approached you and requested that you set up and configure the following based on the IT infrastructure requirements. So, what is the IT infrastructure requirements? Now, they've stated that they need two Windows Server 2016 standard with desktop experience, and they also need to create an Active Directory domain based on the information in the requirement document. Now, the requirement document is right here. So this is the requirement document. This is a table. It tells us well, how the server should be configured, the naming, and also it talks about right from here, right from this side all the way up here. It tells us the IP address of the servers and also the domain, what domain we're creating. And the groups, we're gonna create groups, we're gonna create OUs. And down here, they list the members of staff that we have in the new office and what departments they belong to. And over here, we have the list of computers that are going to be installed at that site. And well, it also tells us the IP address and the MAC address. All right, let's continue with our requirement, our infrastructure requirement. So if we go back there, said they need to create an Active Directory domain based on the information in the requirement data table. Now they also need to create account, regular account for all member staff. And the next part, in addition to the regular account, IT staff need an elevated account. That's more like an administrator account. And they're asking us to make sure that the elevated account has domain administrator permission. And how do we do that? We just create a second account and ensure that that account is a member of the domain administrator group. That's how we do that. Now we need to create four AD groups for each department and add users in each department to the group. So four AD groups based on the information we have. earlier. So these are the AD groups. We have that information already. And the next part says we need to create for okay, AD groups. Yeah, we've talked about that. We also need to join a second Windows server to the domain. Remember, the first Windows server is our primary DC, and the second server we're installing will be our secondary DC. So we need to create a secondary server, a secondary domain controller. That's what that part is saying. And we need to create an OU. And based on the naming convention we have right here. And it said we need to move all groups we created earlier into the respective OU. So we need to move the groups to the OU that represent the departments. And we need to create a group policy objects to deploy printer across all computers on the network. And we also need to automatically assign IP from the server to the client. So that tells us we need to install DHCP role. And we also need to create reservations, and we need to create a DNS forwarder from the one of these, the secondary server to the primary server. And also we need to create a starter GPO to restrict control panel access for regular users. And lastly, we're going to have to create a primary zone for this other domain, atlascorp.com. Okay, now that we understand the requirements, let's get down to work. Now, there's an important notice there. It's the important notice is that we need to install Server 2016, and we need to ensure that not just installing Server 2016, we need to perform all the basic configuration that needs to be done on a new server. And that includes running Windows updates, setting the IP address, and changing the computer name, and ensuring that the date and time is correct. So make sure the computer is in the right time zone. Otherwise, you might have issues with, communicating with your DC or even joining the computer to the domain. Okay, cool. So now we understand all of this. Let's get building. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is to create our machine. So today we're going to be using Oracle VirtualBox to create all our virtual machine. And in real life, some of this infrastructure are going to be built on physical servers, while some other might be built on virtual machines. Some business can decide to build this infrastructure on the cloud. They can use things like AWS, Azure, or GCP, that's Google Cloud Platform. Without whatever the platform you decide to go with, it's going to be the same process. So I'm going to walk you through the process using VirtualBox. So in order for us to install Windows Server on VirtualBox, we first need to create a virtual machine. And how do we create a virtual machine? We're going to open Oracle VirtualBox. Then we're going to click on New. So New is going to pull up a new virtual machine. Now, we have to be very careful. We have to be very, very careful. Now, how do I mean? You might ask the question. You want to make sure that you are actually, following the exact naming convention that was provided to you. You want to make sure that you're doing that. So let's go back to our naming convention. So based on our naming, our first server should be called TORDC1. TORDC1, that should be the naming convention for our first server. So we're going to go back there and put in the name TOR-DC1. So I'm going to leave the default location, it's fine by me. But the type of virtual machine we're creating is a Windows virtual machine. So I'm going to select Microsoft Windows, and the version will be 2016. Now, if you're installing the Windows Server 2019, you can select 2019 here. It's the same process. So I'm going to select 2016. Now, the memory, I like setting my memory to minimum of 3 gigs. That's the way I like it, minimum of 3 gigs. And now we're going to create our virtual hard disk now. I'm going to click create. Now it's just prompting us, telling us, oh, this is where you're going to be, this is where your virtual hard disk is going to be saved. what type of hard disk do you want? Now, personally, for me, I like VHD. Now, why do I like VHD? If you listen to my previous video, you understand that I use multiple platforms for my virtualization. So I might be using VirtualBox today. Tomorrow, I can decide to use VMware. Next tomorrow, I can decide to use Proximus. I can decide to use different platforms. I want to be able to move my machine around. So I'm going to select VHD because VHD is more, I think, based on my experience, VHD is compatible with VirtualBox and a couple of hypervisors. So I'm going to select that. And how do I want to store the drive on my physical disk? I want it dynamic, so that's fine. Meaning that don't allocate all the space now. Allocate only as of when it's needed. So I'm going to click on create. That's going to create my virtual machine. My virtual machine is created. Oh, that's great. So what is the next step? The next step is for us to set, set our network parameters and also set up, our virtual disk so that we can install Windows Server. So this is what I usually do. I'm just going to click on settings. I'll select virtual machine and click on settings. Then I'm just going to go through everything I have. Yeah, I want to go first to my storage. On the storage, you're going to select this disk that looks that says empty, select that. Then I'm going to click on this little triangle beside the disk here, click on that. And I'm going to choose a disk in file. If you select a disk file, it's going to prompt you to select or to select the part where your installer is located. Like I already have that here, so I'm just going to select mine. This is my ISO file. Like ISO files on your desktop or your download, you want to select this and locate where it is and hit OK. But I'm going to select this because I know it's right here. So that is done. Before I hit OK, I'm going to go to network, make sure that I am not on NAT. I want to select internal network because internal network is just a network that is shared across all your virtual machines on your host. So I'm going to select internal network. And then the last thing I want to do, which is not compulsory, you do unless if you don't have VirtualBox, because then yeah, if you don't have VirtualBox extensions installed, then you want to select USB and make sure you're selecting 1.1. But for me, I have the extension installed, so I won't have any issues running VirtualBox with USB 3.0 support. I won't have any issues with that because I have the extension already installed. Okay, so that's about everything we need to do. Just gonna hit OK. My virtual machine is ready. I already provided my ISO file. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just start the virtual machine. So I'm gonna wait for it to start. Wait for it. Wait for it. Right about now, boom. Yeah, our virtual machine is up and it is running. So now it's just loading Windows file. Loading the files needed to install Windows Server. So that's running. I'm gonna wait for it to load. Okay. Cool. So it's gonna ask us a few questions. We need to answer what type, what language you want to install. I'll just select US English, and I'll leave everything else in US English because that actually matches the region that I am. But if you're in a different region, you want to select what corresponds to the region that you are living. But this matches my region, so I'm gonna click next. Then I will select install. Now it's gonna try to load the files and ask me one last question before it proceeds. So we're gonna wait for that to load. Shouldn't take too long. Yeah, so remember, now it's asking what type of operating system do you want to install. If you remember our document here, our document states that ensure you install Windows Server 2016 standard desktop experience. We want to make sure that that is what we're installing. So we're going to go to our virtual machine, make sure we select standard desktop experience. Hit next. And I'm just going to read through I read through the contract. I usually call this a contract or the notice or licensing term. Read through it and click accept before you can proceed with the install. Under the install tab, I will select custom. There's a new installation, and I just select the hard drive, the virtual hard drive, hit next. And we're gonna wait for Windows to install. We're gonna wait for that to install. Now, in the process of trying to copy this file, it's gonna restart twice. I'm gonna pause the video, just come back when this is done installing. Okay, so our server installation is almost done. Now we are prompted to create a password for our administrator account. So I am going to create a simple password called password. That's P A $. Oh, it looks like we're not typing. So we need to do that again. That's P A $, W 0RD. Just gonna check that, confirm that. Yeah, so that's our password. We're gonna type that again. Okay, we're gonna check one more time. Yeah, looks good. Then I'm gonna hit finish. Now our server installation is gonna finalize and we are done. So now we're gonna log into our server for the first time. Now, if you are using Oracle VirtualBox, you're going to press the right control button and delete. That's gonna, you know, give us a prompt to put in our password. So that's again P A $, W 0RD. So hit the return key. That's gonna log us in. So we have successfully carried out, I'm going to show us really quick, we've successfully done the first part of this requirement. We've done, well, technically not everything, but half of it. We need 2 Windows server, so we just installed 1 Windows server. Now what we can do is we can install the second server. I'm going to install the second server while we're doing this. Let's just start the process. So the second server is called TORSRV1. So again, I'm going to pull up VirtualBox. So let's create the second server. It's going to create new, and the server name is TORSRV1. Let's just confirm that. Let's confirm the naming. Go back to the table, TORSRV1. Okay, so our naming convention is correct. So let's go back there. Again, it's Windows Server, it's Windows 2016. I like keeping it at 3000 megabytes of memory. I'm gonna click on create. Again, I like selecting VHD, dynamic, create. So I always want to go click on the virtual machine and select settings. Then I want to first go to storage. Then I'll select the disk, then select this and Windows Server 2016. Or if you can just choose a disk file to locate your file. My file is already here. I'm going to select that. Then under network, I want to make sure it's internal network. Okay. USB is fine. 3.0 is okay. I'm okay with that. Hit okay. Then I'm going to start the server. Again, just like what we did earlier, we're going to repeat the same thing. It's the same process. We're going to wait for the server to start. The server already started. I believe so. It already started. So that's our server file there. Server is running. I'm going to wait for that to be done. Well, not too long. I am going to pause the video again and wait for this to complete. It's the same process. If you want to see, we can do it again. So that's going to be English. Everything is correct based on my region. That's fine. Hit next. I'm going to hit install now. And we're gonna wait. So while I am waiting, I am going to select Windows Server 2016 Standard with desktop experience. Next. And I'm gonna accept the license information. Next. I'm gonna choose custom. Select only the allocated space. Next. And we're gonna wait. So I'm gonna come back once this is done. All right, guys, so we're gonna continue right now. Our second server is running, and that is almost completed, but we're going to continue working on our first server, our DC. So let's pull up the requirement document and let's see where we're at. So we're done with the first part. Then the second part is we need to ensure that we create an Active Directory Active Directory domain based on the information in the requirement document. So what is the information we have there? So we're told that our domain has to be called atlas.com. But here's the trick. You know, I told you earlier that whenever you install a new server, there are a couple of things you have to do when they form part of the basic configuration. So let's go back to our virtual machine. So here we have a virtual machine already installed. So what are the basic stuff we need to do? Number one, we need to change the name. Number two, we need to set the IP, the correct IP address. Number three, we need to check for updates. And number four, we need to check the date and time. So how do we do that? So once the server is done installing, it's going to open up this server manager dashboard. So we're going to click on the left hand side, we're going to click on local server. That gives us information about our current machine that we just installed, our current server. So if you look right here, the computer name is just whack. It's not, it doesn't make too much sense. And the IP address is set by DHCP. We don't want that. Usually, you want to make sure that your server IP is static, or even if it's not static, if you're gonna use DHCP, you want to make sure that that IP address is reserved only for that server. And our date and time is off. We're gonna have to fix that too. So let's start from the simplest to the more complicated. We'll start with the date and time. We're going to just click on time zone. And that's gonna bring us here to the time zone settings. You're gonna click on change time zone. So our time zone, we are in the eastern part, eastern US and Canada. So I'm gonna hit OK on that. And I'm gonna check the time. My time is off, so I will have to adjust my time. My time is about 2:41 a.m. So that's 2:41. 21 to 2:41. Okay. So my time is correct now. Now the next thing I said we need to do is to change our IP address. We click on edit IP address. We're gonna right click on Ethernet and click on properties. We go to IPv4. Then we're gonna use the following IP address. So what is the IP address we're gonna use? Let's go back to our documentation. Our documentation states that our server's IP address will be 10.10.2.1. So 10.10.2.1, and it is a class B, is a class C IP address. So that makes our life easy. So we're gonna go back to our server. So our server's IP is 10.10.2. Oh, sorry, my normal key wasn't turned on, so I'm gonna turn it on. So 10.10.2.1. Subnet mask is a class C. We're gonna leave the default gateway for now, and we're gonna leave the DNS for now. Okay? Okay. Okay, so we're done with the IP address. Done with the IP address. The next thing we're gonna do is to run Windows Update, but Windows Update is gonna take a long time, so we're gonna skip that. We're gonna skip Windows Update for now. Then we'll do the last thing, which is to change the name. And our server name is TORDC1. So we're gonna change the name. Click on change. We're gonna type the name TOR-DC1. We're gonna hit OK. And one more time, we're gonna hit OK. The computer is gonna restart. And we're just gonna wait for computer to be done. Restarting. We're gonna click close, then it's gonna force it to restart. Yes, I want to restart now. I'm gonna wait for that to be done. Really quick. Doesn't take too long to restart. Okay, our name change is completed. The computer is done restarting. We're just gonna sign in. Control delete, and we'll put in our password. So I type in the password as password. No, I think I typed it wrong. PA. Okay, let's check it now. Yep, we got it right. So we're gonna hit login. So we have done all the basic stuff except Windows updates. So I said we're not gonna do Windows updates for now because that's gonna take a longer time. But before the end of this exercise, I'm gonna run Windows updates. And I don't care how long it takes, but we're gonna get that done. So we are done all the basic stuff. If I pull up the documentation, so you can see that we've created this, we've done number 2, and number 3, we need to create regular user accounts. We need to create regular user accounts. I'm gonna pause 1 second.